On April 27, 2010, a group of construction workers in Xinhua village situated in China's Heilongjiang province took a break for lunch at the canteen. Frustration grew among the workers as they waited a long time for their food, and when they sought out the cook to address the issue, 65-year-old Liu Shuyun, known as Liu Boss, due to being the eldest in his family, was nowhere to be found. A concerned worker went to Liu Boss's home. Finding the front door slightly open, he called out but received no response. Upon entering the home, he discovered that although the lights were still on, Liu Boss was not there. Despite the absence of the cook, many workers were not overly worried about his safety. Instead, they were frustrated about going hungry. Concerns about Liu Boss's whereabouts grew, and inquiries were made with his family. His younger brother, 46-year-old Liu Laoliu, took the initiative to search for his brother in places he frequented. After an unsuccessful search, Laoliu turned to the police and filed a report. However, the police showed limited interest and made minimal efforts to locate the missing brother. Laoliu returned home, eagerly awaiting any updates. 2 days later, villagers needed to meet with Laoliu. When they arrived at his home, they discovered an open door and lights on, but Laoliu was not there. The villagers briefly searched for him and called his cell phone only to find it turned off, an unusual and out-of-character occurrence. Unable to locate Laoliu, his family reported him missing to the police. Initially, Liu Boss's vanishing act was attributed to a quest for better employment beyond his rural village. However, when younger brother Laoliu went missing just 2 days later, suspicions heightened, prompting the police to launch a thorough investigation into both cases. Seeking additional support, the local police enlisted officers from neighboring villages and formed a dedicated task force. The oldest brother, who went missing first, had been living in solitude for 2 decades and had minimal interactions outside his family. On the other hand, the younger brother, deeply connected to the community as a farmer involved in various jobs and side businesses, had a more vibrant social life and owned a cell phone that never left his sight. The focus shifted more towards tracking down Laoliu, with the belief that the 2 disappearances were most likely linked. Examining Laoliu's cell phone records revealed a pattern of frequent calls until the day he vanished, abruptly ceasing thereafter. This led the police to infer that Laoliu hadn't planned an extended absence, and whatever transpired occurred suddenly. Of particular interest in his phone records was a specific number he had dialed twice on April 29th, the day he went missing. This number belonged to Su Hong, a local doctor who owned and operated the village's medical clinic. 9 years earlier, Su Hong had relocated to her now-deceased parents' home in the local area, living alone with her 4 children, 3 of whom were adopted. When the police questioned her at her residence, Hong disclosed that she had borrowed 5,000 yuan from Liu Boss in 2009 and an additional 10,000 yuan from Laoliu to fund her children's medical treatment. Adjusting for inflation, this would be just shy of 3,000 USD today. According to Hong, she had already repaid both brothers. Village residents confirmed the loans and unanimously vouched for Hong's good character. Regarding the phone calls, Hong claimed she contacted Laoliu to arrange a meeting to return the money, and after he left, she never saw him again. The police initiated a search looking for bodies or any unusual elements in the small village, such as strangers or unfamiliar vehicles. Efforts yielded no results. The following 3 days of investigation proved unproductive until a breakthrough on May 10th. Laoliu's sister received a text message from her brother, confessing to a tragic incident. The message stated, "Let me be honest with you. I accidentally killed Big Brother. I said I was going to Shandong to find his son, and he got anxious, not letting us approach his son. Why is he like this? At that time, I had been drinking and got into it with him. He got up, so I pushed him, probably too hard. He didn't stand steady, and his head hit the door frame. When I checked, he had no pulse. I was scared, so I took care of Big Brother by moving the motorcycle. I was afraid of getting caught, so I left." The police conducted a thorough search of both brothers' homes with a particular focus on Laoliu's residence. given the text message indicating that Lao Liu had pushed his older brother, causing him to hit his head on the doorframe. Forensics concentrated their efforts in that area. There were no signs of a struggle evident, and Liu Boss's fingerprints were not discovered. Luminol tests failed to reveal any blood on the doorframe. Inside the house, an inexplicable discovery further puzzled the investigators. They found 3,000 yuan casually scattered around, a detail inconsistent with the notion of Lao Liu hastily fleeing and going on the run. It appeared highly unlikely that Lao Liu sent the text message, especially upon closer examination. Lao Liu, known for his limited education, numerous typos, and unfamiliarity with punctuation marks, presented a stark contrast to the well-composed text with proper punctuation. Both the police and his family recognized this inconsistency and attempted to call his number, only to receive no answer as the phone was again turned off. Upon further scrutiny, the police discovered that the phone had never been used apart from the transmission of that single text message. Over the week, the phone sporadically powered on, repeatedly sending the same text message to various individuals, predominantly Lao Liu's family members. The message provided no new insights, merely stating, "I killed Big Brother. I feel awful. I can never come back again. I did it myself. It's unrelated to anyone else. I'm leaving. Take care of yourselves." Despite the release of the texts that seemed to exonerate Dr. Hong, suspicions surrounding her intensified, prompting a reinvestigation by the police. Concerns deepened when another of Lao Liu's brothers revealed that Lao Liu had previously mentioned while intoxicated that, "If I die, it will be Su Hong who kills me." On May 19th, the police revisited Hong's residence for further questioning. Hong remained calm and matter-of-fact during the initial queries, however. When asked about owning a cellar, she appeared to panic and denied having one. This raised skepticism among the police, given that in Heilongjiang province, nearly every household had a cellar for storing food and vegetables during the winter. As the police searched Hong's yard, they indeed discovered a cellar entrance hidden under a pile of weeds. Upon opening the entrance, the police were greeted by a putrid odor. The cellar seemed long abandoned, filled with plastic bags and what appeared to be human feces. Hong, witnessing the unfolding investigation, grew more and more anxious and attempted to obstruct the police from inspecting the cellar. Undeterred, the police used a rake to probe from the outside, revealing two seemingly new blue and green bed sheets. As suspected, the sheets concealed corpses, which the police carefully brought to the surface. The heavily decomposed remains were identified as missing brothers Lao Liu and Liu Boss. Su Hong was promptly apprehended, and news of her arrest circulated throughout the village, leaving many in disbelief. Initial forensic findings indicated that the brothers had died from strangulation. During interrogation, Hong admitted to committing the murders. Having borrowed money from Liu Boss and later Lao Liu, the brothers used the debt as a pretext to see her at home in her clinic. During these visits, they subjected Hong to sexual assault and coerced her into performing favors instead of settling her debt. Overwhelmed by misery, Hong sought a way out, expressing to the police that life was worsening each day. She said that Liu Boss had fallen in love with a woman outside the village and was planning to marry her. In anticipation of this change, Liu Boss decided to cease his harmful actions towards Su Hong under the condition that she settle her entire debt with interest. On April 26, 2010, the day before Liu Boss went missing, Hong invited him to her home to repay the money. Before he arrived, she crushed 16 sleeping pills into powder, which she then packed into 2 capsules. She convinced Liu Boss to take the medicine, falsely presenting it as Viagra. Liu Boss fell unconscious, and Hong seized the opportunity to use a rope to strangle him. She wrapped his body in a sheet, secured it with a rope, and 3 days later employed the same method to lure younger brother Lao Liu to her home, where she killed him in a similar fashion. Hong disposed of both bodies in the cellar. Surprisingly, the case didn't end there. The police sensed something further amiss as the cellar remained foul-smelling, prompting suspicions of something else concealed within. Their intuition proved correct when officers, clearing the cellar and searching for additional evidence, stumbled upon an entirely different corpse, completely skeletonized with no remaining flesh or skin. Little did they know that they had just stumbled upon one of China's only female serial killers. The skeletal remains belonged to a woman, and the police promptly gathered DNA samples from the bones, cross-referencing them with families of local missing persons. Results confirmed her identity as Li Shuiying, the sister-in-law of Su Hong. Following 2 days of continuous interrogation, Hong eventually confessed to her involvement in Shuiying's death. Hong then went on to explain her entire life story, which had many more dark turns. But before we piece it all together, please take a moment to subscribe, comment, and like the video. It makes a massive difference to the channel, and thank you so much for watching. Hong was born in 1970 in the city of Ning'an and grew up with a younger brother and sister, shouldering the majority of household responsibilities at her parents' behest. Pursuing a career in medicine, Hong attended Ning'an Health School in 1986, later interning at the Second People's Hospital after graduation. Her stint at the hospital was brief, resigning in 1990 to move to Xinghua Village, where she established a small clinic. In 1994, she married her high school sweetheart, a decision met with disapproval and criticism from her family, as it meant sacrificing a promising career for matrimony. Following her marriage, Hong relocated to her husband's residence in a different village. However, their marital bliss was short-lived, marred by her husband's immediate infidelity with other women. Despite wanting a divorce, Hong yielded to her parents' advice, considering the societal stigma attached to divorce in the rural community. Divorce would tarnish her reputation and potentially derail her life. In the hopes of salvaging their relationship, Hong bore a child, anticipating that the arrival of their daughter would mend the strained bonds. Unfortunately, her husband displayed little interest in parenting, leaving Hong to shoulder the responsibilities alone. When Hong's daughter was just 9 months old, her husband left for work in the south of China, severing the family's main source of income. Without financial support, and with her spouse on the opposite side of the country, Hong returned to Xinghua Village with her daughter and reopened her clinic. Life didn't ease up for Hong in her hometown, as her siblings had also migrated for work in the south. This left Hong to care for her parents, nieces, nephews, her own daughter, as well as managing the village clinic. Faced with financial difficulties, Hong resorted to doing farm work, undertaking tasks traditionally assigned to the men of the village. In 2001, Hong discovered that her husband, who had been working in southern China, had moved in with a local woman and even impregnated her. Learning of this betrayal, Hong decided to divorce her husband and fully establish herself in her village. In February 2003, Hong's sister returned to the village. She came to Hong's home seeking help to divorce her husband Bing Tao after a recent argument had escalated into physical violence. The following morning, when Bing Tao came to Hong's residence looking for his wife, a heated argument ensued, during which Bing Tao threatened harm to both his wife and children. Faced with this threat, Hong struck Bing Tao across the temple with an empty beer bottle. He began to bleed profusely and struggled on the ground before becoming completely motionless. Hong called her father and explained the situation. Her father did not blame Hong and assured her that he would handle the aftermath. Hong's father doused Bing Tao's body in gasoline, covered it with a pile of weeds, and set it ablaze. Hong then used Bing Tao's mobile phone to send a text message to his family, stating that he had left for employment in the south and would not return until he had earned enough money. This deception was so effective that even in the 7 years between the murder and Hong's confession, nobody reported Bing Tao missing. In November 2005, Hong's stepsister Shuiying returned to the village after working in Ningbo, Zhejiang province. The reunion took a sour turn when Shuiying, upon asking to borrow 10,000 yuan from Hong, became upset at Hong's refusal. Later that day, Hong learned from her mother that Shuiying was having an affair, which she felt was tarnishing the family name. This revelation, especially the act of cheating, fueled Hong's anger. And after what she went through with her husband, she simply couldn't tolerate it. Seizing an opportunity when her stepsister Shueying was sleeping, Hong used a piece of rope to strangle her, and then disposed of her body in the cellar. To divert suspicion, Hong fabricated a letter and clandestinely placed it in Shueying's family home. The letter claimed that she had left the village for work and asked not to be searched for. Since news of her affair was widespread, no one questioned her disappearance. To further conceal the bodies and odor, Hong used the cellar to discard garbage and human feces, and she may well have avoided detection if the Liu brothers' disappearance hadn't undergone a proper investigation. Once the story became public and gained national attention, many expressed immense sympathy for Hong, hoping for a lenient sentence, but to the public's surprise, Hong seemed to prefer the death penalty, stating to the media that she would rather die than be free with everyone knowing what she'd done. Her only lament was, "Why do men always treat me like this?" In January 2011, Hong was prosecuted and received a guilty verdict. Without attempting to mount a defense, Hong openly admitted to her crimes, showing no remorse. She actively urged the court to expedite her death sentence. Honoring Hong's request, the Mudanjiang City Court of Heilongjiang Province sentenced her to death, and on February 10, 2012, Su Hong was executed. Do you feel sympathy for her? Was Hong a cold-blooded murderer, or a victim who was pushed to her limits? Or does nothing excuse taking a life? I want to also thank and shout out the Reddit user Moondog for his research into the case. He also helped with a lot of the research for other videos I've done, which I didn't realize until starting this video. Link in the description to read their other write-ups. But until next time, keep fearing the living.